Hi, everybody, and welcome to OSACon 25. Let's get this party started. All right. Hey, Evan, welcome.
Hello,
So,
hello.
yeah, how's it going today? Ready for an exciting conference?
Fantastic. Heck yeah. There's a lot of good stuff coming up ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, why don't we pop the slides up? Let's introduce ourselves. Let me first introduce the conference. I was the one who cooked up this glorious idea something like 5 years ago. So I've been running it for a number of years. This, I believe, is number 5. They've all been really fun. And this is a completely open, vendor neutral conference where we all just get together and geek out about open source analytics. We have 2 platinum sponsors. That's Altinity and Preset. Altinity, that's my company. We help to run open source ClickHouse better. We are proud sponsors of this conference from the very beginning. And I'm joined here by Evan from Preset. Evan, you want to give a shout
Hi.
out to
Yeah.
Preset?
This is Preset's third year being a platinum sponsor of this conference, and it's been great every time. We're trying to raise awareness about our business intelligence open source offering based on Apache Superset, where we add a bunch of extra features and handle this last mile of the data stack for you with all the great data viz and BI needs you could ever want.
Good features. I've seen them. It's a really great product.
Thank you.
So yeah, should we dive in and give shout outs to some more of our sponsors?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our next round of sponsors is folks who are helping us fund the conference. That's VeloDB, 514, and Data Kitchen. We want to thank you all. Check them out. They're all available on the net, and they're among the many people that make this conference be possible. So thank you all, and I hope to see you for many years to come.
Yep. And then we also wanted to thank the community collaborators. These are the folks that are really getting the word out about this thing, supporting us and making the conference a success. So OSA, United Data Company, Clouderspace, Data Berlin, Airflow Summit, Abracadata, and Beam Summit. Thanks for being part of this community of communities that we're building.
Yeah, check them out. These are the people who help make this community work and help make this conference work. Many of you are here because of their outreach. So thank you so much to all of our community collaborators.
Then, yeah, I think we both wanted to share a bit of a shout out to
Yeah.
the team that made this happen behind the scenes. We've got a bunch of conference organizers that helped us pick the talks, get everything going, organize the whole show. And of course, we've got a couple of MC volunteers that you're going to be seeing throughout the conference, introducing our speakers. And all of these people have been very instrumental in making this all come together. So thank
Yeah.
you.
And I'd like to also include in that shout out Software Guru. They're the folks that are running this. They're experts in running online conferences. They're the reason that you're actually seeing us here and the stream is not freezing and or the audio dropping out. So thanks a bunch to Mara, Pedro, Galia, and Alberto, who is helping us run this particular track. Thanks, guys.
All right. Then, of course, yes, we wouldn't be anywhere if it weren't for all the fantastic speakers that are showing up. There's a lot. If there's some time, maybe Robert and I will shout out a few of our favorite talks that we're looking forward to. But all of these people are, the key players in raising awareness of products and progress in the space. So thanks for bringing all of your knowledge and sharing it with us in these next couple of days.
Yeah, it was pretty tough to choose speakers this year. We had enough people that sort of we didn't accept to have a completely another conference. We'll talk a little bit about sort of follow-on events, but yeah, we really appreciate it. The talks are wonderful, and we picked them. Every single one looked interesting, and we hope you'll agree with our selections.
Mhm. And then we wanted to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. When you're in AirMeet, you'll see a couple of tabs up at the top we wanted to point out. The first one is the lounge. These are some tables you can join at, and they're kind of virtual meeting rooms. So if you wanted to talk to any of the speakers after the show, or speakers if you wanted to meet your audience after the show, that's a great place. Or if anybody strikes up a controversial conversation in the chat and you want to sit down and hash out a topic, then this is the place to do it. And then there are...
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, please, no, by all means.
Yeah, so we also have sponsor booths. That's us. You can come find us there. You know how it is with online conferences. You actually might not find us here because we might be announcing a talk somewhere or doing other things to make the conference run. if that's the case, you can join us on Slack. We definitely see that. So with that, maybe we could show uh, some of the links that folks can go to.
Indeed. So this is where everybody should take a quick screenshot. These are the essential resources. The Slack is the OSA community Slack, and there is a chat room or a Slack room, OSA conference, and you can bring up anything there, whether it's some technical difficulties, some feedback, some ideas for next year, things you're wondering about this just general purpose conference channel. Then there's the OSACOM newsletter. If you want to tell what that's about, Robert.
Yeah, absolutely. So we put out a regular newsletter, sort of on a monthly or so basis that brings up interesting new things that are happening in open source and analytics systems. So definitely check that out. You sign up for it. It's spam you'll want to read. That's kind of our goal.
Mm-hmm. And then, like Robert said, OSACOM is a bigger endeavor about this community of communities in the open source analytics space. OSACON is the big show, but it's not the only show. So, Robert, if you want to talk about the meetups a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year we've made a real effort to extend out into real life, sort of real life meetups. We were doing about half a dozen this year. I was just got back a couple of days ago from a trip where we did a meetup in London, in the city. The next one that's coming up on the schedule is Atlanta, right before KubeCon. That's sponsored. The space is sponsored by Amazon. We also have follow-on meetups that are under the OSACOM umbrella in Seattle on the 18th of November and San Francisco on the 20th. All of these are designed, these are completely vendor neutral. So in fact, one of the best ways to find speakers is we go invite our competitors because they always want to have a chance to speak and just let you come, check out what everybody is doing so that you can get a full understanding of what's going on in this very, very diverse open source community and what the new technologies are. And we'd love to see you there.
Yep. And I think there's a lot of projects that are a part of this conference that are looking for a place to continue raising awareness and grab the mic. So if you're interested in that, get in touch on the OSACOM website and we can talk about how your community can get involved with all the others that are participating in this effort. But with
Absolutely.
that, if you have any questions about housekeeping stuff, how to do things, just hit us up in that Slack channel. Otherwise, Robert, I'm curious, what do you think are kind of the big themes overarching and trends that we're going to be hearing a lot about in this conference?
Well, there's one that's near and dear to my heart, which is data lakes, and I think that one of the things that's happened in analytics is and databases in general is there's just been an explosion in the amount of data that people are managing, and data lakes offer the ability to put that data on object storage, have it managed like a SQL table, be accessible to all kinds of different use cases. So, for example, you could run real-time dashboards, you could run training, you could do batch reports. But the idea being that you'd have a single copy of the production data that everybody can access and use without interfering with each other. That's a huge change. It's something that's going to play out over a period of years. I know that I mentioned it at the last conference, but that's something I'm definitely very focused on. How about you?
Well, I hate to be that guy, but everybody's got to say it. I think AI is obviously the big topic for anybody in the data space, but there's a lot to go in there. It's partly about the easiest and newest ways to access data that, like you're mentioning, whether it's in the lake or anywhere. But then, of course, I think the interesting part that I'm interested in is how people are building new tools with it, not just
Yeah.
what tool you're using, but what tool you're building that's more bespoke for you and your community.
Yeah, and I think one of the really exciting things that's happening about AI this year is people are starting to build real stuff with it. In the next in the next talk that I'm doing, I'm going to dig deep into that. You'll have other talks here which are doing that, but what I find really exciting is not just to have technology for its own sake, although obviously that's fun, but it's stuff that really works and where you can use it to solve problems you couldn't solve before that give value to the people who use them. And that's happening with AI right now. Code generation or sort of agentic development of code is one example. I'll be going deep on that in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm. I think we have a lot of talks in that arena about AI, which is not surprising. I guess there's a couple that I'm interested in. One is Maxime's keynote tomorrow morning about open source, and it's the main advantage that people have in developing and using open source with AI, and how that's kind of an unfair advantage to be in this open source space that we're in.
Absolutely. I'm excited for, I always like hearing Peter Zaitsev talk. I've known Peter for years. He's going to be talking on smarter analytics, AI-driven intelligence and modern databases. Peter is very thorough on this, and he's just fun. Good jokes. Maya J is doing AI Your Hotel. I don't quite know what that's about, but that's one where those three words just, they have this feeling like, hey, I got to go to that talk. So I'm definitely going to be checking that one out. We also have talks tomorrow. Were your talks which day?
Mine's today, yeah.
Yeah, so we have so we're both doing talks today. Just looking at the schedule for Wednesday, there's a bunch of cool talks there as well. So I like anything that I love DuckDB. There's making DuckDB with Arrow Flight and the airport extension. That sounds like fun. I also think Arrow is a pretty cool technology, and so I always go to talks on that. That's definitely one I'll be checking out.
And then I think Heather Meeker's talk is going to be really
Yeah.
interesting. It's about businesses and how they succeed and thrive in the age of AI. So it's not just about the tech, but how you apply it and run a business. That should be interesting. And then actually for me, it's kind of funny. There's two I want to see that are at the same time at the very end of the day tomorrow about real-time customer-facing analytics by Ron Kapoor, and then that SQL window functions in 5 easy steps. I'm just curious to see if that simplifies that universe for me a little bit.
Is that really possible? But if anybody can do it, it's Dave Stokes. He's been a member of the MySQL community for ages. I've known him for decades at this point. Yeah, and Ron is another one. Sort of tail end of the day. Ron's a great talker on Rocks, not RocksDB, Star Rocks. So yeah, that's definitely going to be an excellent talk as well. In fact, I don't think there's any talk in this list I don't want to go to. It's going to be a fun conference.
Now, there were a ton of submissions, so thank you to everybody that threw their hat in the ring with the talk. It was incredibly hard to, kind of choose favorites and give some bad news to other folks, but
yeah, don't be doing that to us.
But yeah, there's a lot of great use cases. There's a lot of great technology. There's a lot of great things to hear about. So make sure you enjoy it, not only today, but stick around tomorrow through the end. There's all kinds of good stuff.
Great. I think we're kind of at our end of our list. Other than that, it's just like, hey, have a great time at the conference, contribute. We hope you're inspired by this. You build new things, and definitely join the Slack channel if you like what you see, you want to do talks, you want to join this community. Please reach out to us. There's nothing better than having more people joining this and getting involved in this movement.
Yep, and like all things open source, get out there on AirMeet and Slack and just make a whole bunch of noise. The more noise, the better.
And if you don't like what we're doing, file a PR.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you, Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Evan. It's a pleasure to have you here again this year. Talk to you soon.
Indeed. Thank you all.
Okay, I'm in and ready to go. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next talk in OSACon. I'm doing a kickoff, a keynote to kick things off. The title is Don't Fire Your Developers and Other Lessons of the AI Revolution. So I hope that the audio is fully on. Our folks here will signal if we're having a problem with sharing your audio. Meanwhile, I'm going to dive in. A little bit about my background. I am CEO of Altinity. I've been running the company for over 6 years. We're also, as you just heard, we're one of the big sponsors of that. Oops, just a second, making one small change here. Okay, got it. Uh, so slides are ready to go, and let's dive in. So just I want to show you one slide with a little bit of trademark information. That's all we want to see. If you want to find out more about Altinity, check us out online. We're easy to find, and we love to talk about databases. What we're going to talk about here, though, is AI. And this is a really fun topic. I've been doing programming for a really, really long time, like 53 years, believe it or not. This is one of the most interesting transitions I have ever seen. And it beats out things of going from, say, writing programs on cards to actually using terminals to edit them. There have been some big transitions in this time. This is one of the greatest. And people have really different opinions about it. Let's survey a few of them. So AI, is it going to be good or bad for society? Well, we look at Bill Gates and he says, yeah, most important tech advance in decades. He's obviously, from the tone of this, thinking it's going to be good. Um, what do other people think? Jeff Hinton, who was one of the founding fathers of current AI models, is actually kind of believes what Bill Gates says. It's important, but it's going to extinguish civilization. Well, at least there's a reasonable chance of it. How about jobs? So that's another concern. How's it going to affect the job market? Um, Talk to Jensen Wang. He's pretty upbeat. It's going to be increased productivity. It's going to lead to 4-day work weeks. We're going to be able to spend more time with our families and our friends. Other people don't feel so sanguine about it. You go to Reddit, you see a lot of comments like this, like, hey, I can't get a job because AI is ruining the job market. And here's one that really concerned me from OpenAI. Sam Altman thinks that AI is going to do away with CEOs. There was a big discussion about this on Hacker News, and let me tell you, it was pretty worrying. So, and then finally, what we really want to focus in on today is how does this affect open source? And I work on databases, so I'm going to drill down on analytic databases as well. How do they interact with AI and use it effectively? So let's just get some opinions here to start out. Here's one that's kind of disturbing. AI, we're hearing a lot about it, huge amounts of investment. Uh, MIT produces a report over the summer that says 95% of the Gen AI pilots that companies are doing are failures. Well, that's kind of disturbing. Um, Another one, have you heard about work slop? That's when you just got a job to get done, do a report, do a paper. You just open up Chat GPT, you punch in what you want to produce, and you go away for a little while. It generates the report for you, and you mail it in. That's really defining it as, sort of creating something where the people that read it then have to sort out whether it even makes sense or not. So, and open source projects are having problems with this in some cases because people are filing PRs that are just junk and then letting the maintainers figure it out. And then finally, there's a lot of people who think that for a variety of reasons, AI is simply going to kill open source entirely. So that's a lot of opinions and not a lot of guidance. As as we always do in open source, we are actually going to have to go figure this out for ourselves. That's one of the that's one of the just the fact of life, and one of the things that makes open source so great. So let's dig in. And the first thing to do is to kind of look at AI itself and try and develop some intuition about the problems it solves, how it does it, and how it actually works. I'm going to keep this really high level and start with a fundamental problem that AI has been used on for years, and that is machine translation. Here's an example. Translating from English to German. Can you help me? What you want to see is translate this to German, kannst du mir helfen? And this is actually a really key problem that, in fact, drove some of the major innovations in AI. If you're familiar with attention, that is a mechanism that came out, for relating the words in a sentence to each other in a way that you can produce better machine translations. That came out of a team at Google Translate. And this was one of a number of innovations that led to the current large language models today. Here is the most incredibly simplified diagram that I could draw of a large language model, but I think it shows the essence of what's going on here. So when we use it to solve this translation problem, you have a context, which is where your prompts go. And in this case, you would say something like translate, can you translate to German? Can you help me? You put that in the context, you feed it to the LLM. It's going to take those words, we call them tokens. These are going to be turned into embeddings, which are huge vectors, basically a mathematical representation of the semantics to that word. This context is going to be pushed through a bunch of layers, which are going to transform it over the course of these layers. And at the end, what we're going to do is get a scoring that predicts the next word that is most likely to the word that is most likely to follow the context that we have already. In this particular case, because we're doing a translation, we want it to begin the translation in German. And so what the LLM produces is one word, kannst. That's the beginning of the translation. What does the AI do then? It just cycles that whole context back in again and repeats the process. This goes on, it loops through until eventually it runs out, the context becomes full and then it stops, or more likely you get a token back that says, hey, there's nothing more, just go ahead and stop and give the answer back now. That's an LLM. The transforms themselves are based on use weights to help drive the changes that we make to these groups of vectors, very, very large matrices, as they progress through the LLM and end up with this predictive score. Those are derived from training data. So the training data, by practicing on training data, we help the LLM develop a notion of what the answers are. How does it work in reality? Well, here's an example which is a little bit more complicated. What I did was, the prompt is translate this quote, and I gave it a famous quote from German literature. If you're German, you may have seen this before. The key thing here is that ChatGPT 5, which I was using, does a really, really good job of translating German to English. This translation, for those of you who are German speakers, you look at it, this is really good. If you were scoring this in college, person writing this would get an A. Not only that, ChatGPT doesn't just translate, it actually gives you helpful context around it. Like what did the author mean about this? Again, this is a really good summary of what this author meant, and we can play around with it. We can make it more slangy. We can make it more formal, so on and so forth. ChatGPT will do this really well. There's kind of a dark side, though. It's not all perfect. Let's ask another question, a follow-on. Where did that quote come from? Well, what's interesting here is that the ChatGPT 5 knows that this comes from Goethe, a very, very famous German author. But what it then said was it was in a book called Maxims and Reflections. Actually, it's not. It's from a book called The Italian Journey. And if you did not know Goethe's works, you would completely miss this. And so this is a hallucination where the AI didn't know, and it just made something up that seemed plausible and came out, sort of at the top of the list as it was creating the prompt. So these AIs have amazing capabilities, but they also have some sharp edges that we have to be aware of and will affect how we use them. Let's turn these now to code. And excuse me. So what we're going to do is try and use this for development. And we can do this because LLMs don't just train on human language, they train on code. So one of the things that goes into the corpus that's used to train these large models, what we call frontier models, is open source projects from GitHub. So the LLM knows a lot about how to translate English, what code looks like, and also how to translate from an English request to do something in code. Let's dig in and check that out and see how practitioners think it's going. Well, what's happened over the past year and what makes this really interesting is the practitioners have gone in many cases from, hey, this is kind of meh to, oh my God, this is really, really great. Here's a quote from Simon Willison. He's the guy who wrote Django and is a really, really great developer. And he's coined a number of important terms because he's very interested in AI. Prompt injection was one that came from him, but vibe engineering is a new term that he coined recently on his blog. You've heard of vibe coding, perhaps, where you just go in and casually generate code, even if you don't know what the code means. Vibe engineering is a variation on that where you're generating the code, but you're doing it following engineering principles of testing, specification, documentation. And what Simon says is that the tools that are now available, like Claude Code and Codex, they enable to to use LLMs to generate code in a way that was simply not possible before. What's an example? Let me show you one. So one of the really cool things about LLMs is they're great at summarizing information. I work with ClickHouse a lot. In fact, we tend to do a lot of stuff with storage. So a typical question when you're doing a support case, or maybe you're thinking of designing an improvement, is to go ahead and find out, in this particular case, what are some failure modes when we're writing parts of a table to a particular storage type. I type this into Codex, and the answer I get is awesome. It tells me the exact failure modes. I'm just showing you one of them. But what's even cooler is that it actually gives me links to the exact locations in the code where the behavior it's talking about is located. It correctly shows the variables that control it. I can just punch the button in VS Code, which was what I was using, and go straight in and review it. I can understand what's going on. This is very, very powerful. One of the big problems that open source projects have is they're often weakly documented. It's just too much trouble to do it. The code changes and the docs get out of date. LLMs can now solve this problem. This is a huge step forward. What about actually generating code, though? What do people think about it? So here's another quote from a programmer that you may have heard of, Mitchell Hashimoto. That's the guy who wrote Terraform. He was the founder of, or a founder of HashiCorp, a really, really outstanding programmer. And he has been, wrote a great blog article about using AI assisted coding to do a feature in one of his projects. And he also had a great quote about this, which stressed the fact that to use it effectively, this is an iterative process where you guide the machine generates stuff that you guide it to produce, but then you also go in, check it out. You may alter it yourself. So it is very much a collaborative process where the LLM can generate code, but the human is also supplying expert direction. So what does that look like in practice? Here's a simple example, adding a test case to a unit test. This is something that I was working on recently. And what I do is, and like a lot of people, I've learned that you have to be kind of structured in your thinking. You come in with a plan. You can ask the LLM, hey, what do you think about this? What are some options to achieve what I want? You can then break it up into pieces and you hand those pieces off to the LLM and let it work on them one at a time. So this is just creating a unit test. It's going to put a bunch of code in there. What it doesn't do is make sure that that code is clean, that it's systematic. I will do that in later steps. Like once I've seen the code and proved that it works by trying it out, I can then tell the LLM, hey, make me a nice helper function so that my test case now only has 2 lines of code in it, and that I don't repeat code, because that makes for cleaner tests that are easier to understand. This is how you work with these tools. It's a back and forth where you're supplying engineering knowledge and guidance about the problem, often fixing things directly if you don't like what you see. The end is something that really works. And in fact, in this case, it enabled me to set these unit tests up in less than an hour, as opposed to many hours, which would have been the case before. So this is a really big step forward. And there's many benefits to this, but I think for open source, there is a particular problem that we have across the open source ecosystem, and that is finding contributors. So and LLMs have the potential to help with that in 2 ways. One is they can make existing people more productive. and able to do interesting and deep things. The other thing that they do is they enable new people to come on. So new people can come on, they can learn about the code, they can become better at it. And I think a key learning from this is that open source projects should actually welcome engineers who use these tools, and they should make the projects hospitable to them. For example, by filling out, there's new conventions arising, like there's a file called agents.md that you can fill out that tells the agents, hey, these are the coding conventions and other conventions you should be following when you're generating code in this project. There's also another learning from this or insight, and that is that a lot of people are concerned about AI killing open source. I think what will actually, one of the big risks that we can't lose sight of is not having these tools that will kill open source. If they make you more productive, you actually want to make sure that the people who are working on the open source projects, the foundation of all software, you want to make sure they have those tools accessible to them. This is something that is really, really important to solve. There is one little problem here. I'm very optimistic about this. One little problem I want to point out is that there's still an unserved, or sort of an unsolved question about who owns code that comes out of an LLM. I'm pretty confident that this will be solved over time. This is shows you something from the U.S. Copyright Office. Other countries are dealing with this, but this is something that really does require thought. One of the conclusions from this is that the more the humans are helping out, the more likely is the code will pass muster to be copyrighted, which is then the basis for being able to put a license on it. So an important caveat there to look at. Um, I think it'll be solved, but we definitely want to think about it. We've shown how sort of the interactions between LLMs and projects. Let's look at how open source analytic databases, my favorite topic, can help LLMs work better. So um, it's one of the simplest ways to get some insight into this is to just line up LLMs and consider where they're not strong or weak, more accurately, and then compare that to analytic databases, what they do. And it's actually they're really very complementary. I'll just take one example. So LLMs are quite slow. Whereas if you go to an analytic database like ClickHouse or StarRocks or Presto, they're extremely fast. They have unlimited pools of RAM and CPU available to them. They can scan billions of rows using parallel processing. And so a request that goes to, for example, if you need to get an answer, you can send the request down to an analytic database and the answer will come back 43 or something like that. What's great about that is in addition to being fast, that's also very, very convenient because it doesn't fill up a lot of context space. That's another issue that LLMs have. So there's clearly ways these can fit together. How's that evolving right now? Well, I think as many people listening to this talk are aware, MCP, Model Context Protocol, is a specification that's arisen that allow uh, AI tools like Claude Desktop, for example, to connect with a tool that can actually talk to a database and get useful information. In this picture, I'm showing Claude, which has been configured to talk to the Altinity MCP server. So that is an MCP server that we've developed. It talks to ClickHouse and allows you to get information. So what that then allows Claude to do is somebody can enter a prompt to say, hey, give me a report on share prices. Gets fed into Claude. Claude can go off, run the query or queries that are necessary to get it, and then print out something useful for the person who had that request. So there are some additional things. Having an MCP server is not enough. The database also has to meet some important requirements. And there's now kind of a standard roadmap that's evolving for databases that many databases, if not all of them, are at some level focused on delivering these features or they've done it already. Compute storage separation. We'll talk about that a little bit in just a second, but what that does is allow AI clients to come in, ask questions that could be disruptive to other applications and get the answers back quickly. Reliable response, not failing. Having security that is using role-based access control and being able to map that security accurately to the person who's issuing the prompt using single sign-on, for example, OAuth. It's also an important feature that many databases are are implementing or have implemented successfully already, vector search. That allows you to store embeddings, these translations of words or paragraphs or entire documents in a database and search for similar chunks of text. That's in fact exactly the technology that would have enabled AI to answer that question about the Goethe comment. Who wrote this? You can use embeddings to solve that. Final feature for databases: common storage on data lakes. So Iceberg is emerging as a standard for putting data on object storage, generally using Parquet files. And as databases become better at reading from this, so for example, we're adapting ClickHouse so that it can read, so that it can use Iceberg as primary storage. You can run your real-time dashboards off it. But the cool thing about this is because it's in object storage using Iceberg as to manage the tables, Claude and other applications can access that same data without interfering with the real-time dashboards. What that does is it opens up this data for things like training. This is permission to play to be able to allow AI applications to come in and take full advantage of the same data that we have in databases. There's kind of a there's kind of a final point that I'd like to make, and that's where's this going? And I think there's something really interesting going on here. So frontier models, I think I meant frontier models here, they're still not normal technology. They are incredibly capable. They're very powerful, but they're expensive. They have known security holes and difficulties. People don't want to put their data into them. They are slow and they have hallucinations. So what is happening as people develop applications on these, there's beginning to emerge some patterns for doing this development, and it's actually, or for building applications that work. It's actually not that different from the way people are interacting with AI agents when they're developing code. It's sort of the human does some, the human provides guidance. We go off for bits and pieces to ask the LLM, hey, fill in this, fill in that, polish that up, so on and so forth. You can build applications the same way. That report I just showed you 2 slides back, you could actually have a workflow which sort of walks people through the steps to construct a report. And in each step, it will take user input and then feed it to the LM to get that part of the step done, confirm that it looks good, and then continue on the workflow. This has an interesting impact because it's also getting people to take a new look at what are called small language models. And this is for open source, particularly interesting because we write software that is not designed necessarily to run. It may run in clouds, but the point is it runs everywhere, or anywhere for any purpose. And so um, what are called small language models or sometimes local models, these are models that are less capable, but can handle those individual steps. They're quick, they're cheap to train and to run, and they're under your control. That's a really, really key point because that's necessary to build applications that people trust and are able to use. So I'd like to close this talk out with what I think is a wonderful quote from Armin Ronacher, who wrote Flask, wrote Jinja. He's a super, super programmer and a very good writer. And the point he made was that the winners in AI are going to be those people who combine the strengths of humans and machines. That's kind of the way it's always been with tools. We're seeing that happen in real time today. And his quote is worth reading. Right now, it's messy and raw, but the path is clear. We're no longer just using machines. We are now working with them. As I said at the beginning of this talk, I've been doing this for over 50 years. This is one of the most exciting transitions in code that has happened during that time. It's a really, really wonderful transition that opens up new possibilities, building things, being more productive. So I urge you, jump in, be curious. There are going to be problems and bumps, but this is something that is going to change the way that we do programming in a fundamental way. In the meantime, don't fire your developers. Thank you very much. And if you have questions, feel free to contact me through the Slack channel for this conference or on LinkedIn. If you're interested in Altinity, come check us out there. But I love to talk about these issues if you have questions. Love to. I don't know if we have time for questions, but I'd love to hear more. So, um, oh, got a question here. Wonderful. So how
Yeah.
is?
Hey, Robert. Thanks so much for that talk.
Hey, Josh, how's it going? So I've got one
Good.
here. How much time do I have to take questions?
I think you have a few minutes.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so 6 minutes. Oh, great. So how is AI affecting data engineering? Yeah, that's a really good question. And the the answer is we're still finding out. But I think a really key thing that's happening here is that now like I'll give a couple of answers. So here's one: the volumes of data that we're dealing with have become very, very large. And I made this point about people wanting to store things on data lakes because traditional data engineering has used pipelines to move data from one place to another. We're dealing with volumes of data that in order to support AI and simultaneously other applications, they're too big to move. It's too big, too painful, too expensive. So being able to have shared data is one of the enabling designs that will make that will make AI work without destroying everything else. The second thing is that, of course, as I showed, we can use AI to do very, very important tasks in data engineering. For example, cleaning data. AI is incredibly good at recognizing patterns. So you will see this used increasingly both to build the pipelines themselves to help people generate the boilerplate code, but also to help solve problems like data cleaning that are necessary to use data properly. So I hope that's a helpful answer. I'd love to hear other opinions on it. Let's see, any more?
Doesn't look like we have any yet, but folks, feel free to jump in.
Yeah.
How does
Oh,
the onslaught of AI affect the trajectory of ClickHouse as a technology? Oh, I'm sure you have
oh,
some thoughts about that.
wow, this is a
And
great
how does it need
question.
to change and evolve? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love this one. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I signed up for this talk was to try and figure that out. And I think that there are one of the things that has been really hard in AI is to try to figure out what do databases really need to do and the problem why that's a hard problem is yes, there's AI, yes, we can invent a lot of things, but what is it that databases really need to do to to make AI applications work? If you don't see people building them, that's a hard question to answer. You tend to hallucinate. Humans hallucinate too. Developers are really great at hallucinating technical answers to problems they don't understand. So I'll give you an example of one of the things that was a surprise to me was talking to somebody in financial services who said, look, we're using RAG. What you need to do is make this database bomb proof. It's got to be fast, it's got to be cheap, but we can't have queries fail because what that happens is it causes the entire pipeline to fail. And and so we actually lose time, and this is financial services. They care about how quickly they can do things. So database reliability is really important. I think obviously vector search, being able to search on these embeddings, that's important. Being able to handle different workloads. I think where it's less clear, but people are doing really interesting things. And you'll see this with services like Supabase. They're doing some really interesting things where they plug in models at different places in the database to help generate code. For example, SQL queries to help diagnose problems, but also just to do the integrations so that people can automatically take a model and apply it immediately to their data without worrying about bunch of boilerplate. I think that's a really interesting area. So, final question.
One last
Yeah, go ahead.
question.
Yeah.
Oh, is there a fundamental difference between how open source analytical DBs are incorporating AI slash large language models differently from proprietary businesses?
Yeah, that's another really great question. And it can be answered in so many ways. I think one of the things that you're seeing, and I'll take one of the possible, there's an answer space out here, and I'm going to select one point from it. Proprietary databases increasingly run as cloud services like Snowflake. Snowflake is the prototype for a database that runs in cloud. And so what you're seeing in the proprietary databases is they are not just proprietary, but they're proprietary in a closed cloud service. So The integration is with AI then depends on stuff on being in that cloud. For example, if you're going to use, I'll just take OpenAI. If you're going to train information on or train a model that's supplied by OpenAI, you have to load your data up there and let it get work done in the service. Open source lets it run anywhere. This is why open source is so interesting, because we can enable people to take this AI, combine it with a database, and run it anywhere that makes sense. Got a high performance cluster, run it there. Want to run it in your own cloud, with completely locked off from anybody else, run it there. Want to run it in a cloud service, run it there. Open source can run anywhere. And this is not just the databases, but it's also the models that they integrate. I think that's a really big reason why open source, something that we should focus on, and will make a profound difference in the applications that people can build.
Amazing. Well, Robert, thank you so much. That talk was great. Thank you also for not, as one of your employees, thank you for not trying to replace me with AI. I really appreciate it.
Oh God, no.
And,
if you love this, yeah. In fact, we want more like you. So yeah, we're hiring. I forgot to say that. Yeah, and we're
definitely
going
come
to
join
use
us.
AI to make you all into supermen and superwomen. So please join us.
Yes, please do. All right, I think that's all. Thanks so much.